I'm Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, and you're watching another broadcast from Christian Thinkers Society, a resident institute of Houston Baptist University. Now, and here at HBU, we believe we have an international mandate to raise up young champions for Christ who will go out into all the world and be people of Christian distinction, no matter what their vocation is. Now, segueing from that, we have a very interesting interview today. You are not going to want to miss 1 second of this interview. I have some wonderful friends here who are joining us. We're in the studio here at HBU, but they're joining us all the way from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I want to welcome you to my friends, Misty and Brandon McCall. Welcome to our program today.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having us.
Well, it is our honor to host you all here. Pastor Brandon and Pastor Misty McCall went to Saudi Arabia, and they are now leading the only church in Saudi Arabia. And I just want you to let that sink in for a moment, because if you look at any study about the Christian church around the world, you're going to immediately notice that in the top 5 of some of the most lethal places on earth there is to be a Christian. Of course, you're going to read about North Korea, and you're going to read about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we need to hear all about this. This is an amazing story, but first tell us, how do a couple of wonderful Americans get to Saudi Arabia? How did you get there? What are you doing? And how did this wonderful church begin?
Well, I was in the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force, for 11 years, and once I got out, I actually missed the camaraderie of being in the military, but I was a little bit overweight to go back into the military, so I found a job as a U.S. military advisor, and I actually accepted the job before I told my wife about it.
To go to Saudi Arabia.
Yes, which I wouldn't encourage. Yeah, well, the D word was thrown around a few times. I spent a lot of time in front of our pastor in prayer, and but my wife was gracious to follow me, and she believed in me, and we really just felt led that it was the right thing to do in that season of our lives, and so we went. And within about 6 months, we had connected with this gentleman. His name's Dr. Victor Agwigan, and he was doing a house fellowship at that time. And there was about 13 to 15 people. And we connected with him. We connected with his family, and our two families just kind of, we hit it off. And we went from being a house fellowship to a church. We had to make that transition because the fellowship started growing, and we outgrew the houses on our western compounds, and it became a security threat to them, having 50 to 100 Christians come onto their compound to have a worship service.
So they didn't like that. So that was a limit. So very similar to like the People's Republic of China, where they don't want over a certain number of believers coming together without government. They said no more in this compound. So
yes, sir.
You could have stopped at that point.
Yes, we could have, but we had to come to that moment where we decide: do we stop, and do we go back to just going to the embassies and having the social gatherings, or do we continue, or do we really believe in this thing, and the mandate to change lives into, and we decided to take that step and go off the western compounds, and it just kind of grew from there, and at a certain point we decided to stop calling it a fellowship and just say, you know what, we're a church, we're a group of believers, and we want to see the kingdom of God spread throughout the entire world, and while we're here, we're going to do our best to make sure that everyone we come into contact with witnesses God in our lives, and for those who come to Saudi Arabia, they would also have a place where they can worship without fear.
Now, Brandon and Misty, it's unlikely that any of our audience, very few to say the least, will ever end up in Saudi Arabia, and so we're not really familiar. What is it like there in the kingdom? I mean, how many people are in the kingdom? How many Christians are there? Is it estimated? I mean, this is the only church that's legal. So can you explain this to us?
Okay. Well, in the kingdom, there's the population 27 million. Of those 27 million, around 7 million are expatriates, people who come from other countries to work in the country. Out of those 7 million, we estimate there's about 1.5 million that are Christian.
Okay.
And so just the Christians alone, there's a great need to ensure that they understand when they come, because most of the things you hear when you come to a place like that are you can't fellowship, you can't, if you want to pray, you need to pray in your own home. If you want to, you can't carry a Bible. So the mission field alone with just Christians is vast. Exactly. And ensuring that they don't fall into the trap of converting out of convenience or converting out of ignorance or any of those means. And so yeah, so it's a great opportunity.
But then you decide to officially become a fellowship, Hope for Riyadh, this wonderful work of God.
Yes, sir.
And now, though, you're worshiping, from what I understand, out in the open. Is that accurate?
That is, yes, sir.
So walk us through that, because that is just amazing to me.
Well, like I said earlier, we started on the compounds, the western compounds where expats live.
So expats live together in compounds.
Yes, sir.
They're secure,
Yes.
like we see on the movies.
Yes.
And then you guys have barbecues and all that good stuff.
Yes,
And then,
yeah.
So, but the church isn't behind this compound now.
No, we came to a point where they said, you know, we were a threat to the compound, so we have to find a place to do it. And so we share every Friday. Our day of worship is Friday,
And
so
explain that to our audience. Why Friday?
the Islam in Islam, their holy day is Friday, and so most of our congregants are lower paid, and they work as maids, as drivers, and they're off on Fridays. So it's more convenient for them to come to church. So we've chosen to do it on Friday as well. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So anyone can venture into the church, is that right? I mean, as far as from among the expats,
Yes,
it's accessible.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, it's on their website. We have our GPS coordinates on our website of where we meet every Friday. We've met at the same place since we've left the compound. So for 6 years now, we've met in the same place at the same time, and yeah.
So here you are, and you decide to worship openly. How did you get the name Hope for Riyadh?
Was something that we spoke over with Pastor Victor and Curtis Wallace and I, and we just talked about, we were throwing names around, and because Riyadh is the center of Islam, you know, the two holy mosques are in Mecca and Medina, but the king, in his official title, is the custodian of the two holy mosques.
Right.
He resides in Riyadh. The government resides in Riyadh. Riyadh is the most strict and conservative city in all of Saudi Arabia, and so we're taking on this Islam, you know, and but it's not politically correct to say that. So
of course,
you know, we substituted Islam for Riyadh, you know,
absolutely,
and we just called it Hope for Riyadh, you know.
Here you are, and I want to just pause for a minute and reflect on your boldness to sacrifice, first to go, and then you don't have to be doing a church. I mean, you're doing your job there in Saudi Arabia. You have a job that you're doing. You're a consultant for the Saudi Air Force, and yet here you're worshiping in this group that started with a dozen or so people, similar to the believers praying in the upper room, is now several hundred. Tell us about that. What is this service like, and can we stream it? Can we watch it?
Yeah,
how do we participate?
Actually, you can. If you go onto our Facebook account, Grace Outreach Riyadh, and every Friday they'll post. You watch us live, and it'll take you to live stream. We live stream every Friday.